I've been watching General Hospital long enough to know that the most dangerous people are usually the ones smiling the calmest. That's why I can't bring myself to believe Jack Brennan is finally in the clear just because Ross Cullum is gone. Around Port Charles, trouble has a funny way of coming back around when everyone thinks the storm is past. Like folks back home used to say, the chickens always come home to roost. And if Valentin Cassadine really made some kind of quiet deal with Z before disappearing into the shadows, I have a feeling we're only seeing the first piece of a much bigger puzzle. The more I think about Jack, the harder it is for me to see him as an innocent man trapped in bad circumstances. Sure, Ross Cullum may no longer be around, but that doesn't magically erase everything Jack has done. I've watched him twist situations, manipulate people, and somehow walk away looking cleaner than he should. Every time it seemed like someone was about to expose him, another distraction appeared. After a while, that stops looking like luck and starts looking like a carefully planned game. What really sticks with me is the history between Jack and Valentin. That rivalry wasn't built overnight. Jack put Valentin in an impossible position while Pikeman was operating, leaving Valentin to take the heat while sitting behind bars. Then, almost out of nowhere, Jack showed up as the head of the new WSB field office in Port Charles. I remember scratching my head when that happened because it never quite added up. Something always felt hidden beneath the surface. And I still don't think we've been given the whole story. Meanwhile, Valentin was living like a ghost, keeping Charlotte close while staying one step ahead of everyone else. As a father, I could understand why protecting his daughter came first. But once Lulu woke up and wanted her family back together, I had a feeling that fragile balance couldn't last forever. In this town, reunions usually come with a price tag, and this one was no different. That meeting in the Prague restaurant still stands out in my mind because everything changed after that. Instead of a quiet family moment, chaos broke loose when Colette Moreau opened fire. Charlotte nearly became an innocent victim, and I honestly can't blame Valentin for believing Jack had something to do with it. Whether Jack ordered it or not almost became secondary. Once a child is caught in the crossfire, trust is gone. That's the kind of wound that doesn't heal easily. From that moment on, revenge became inevitable. Valentin wasn't the type to forget, and he certainly wasn't the type to forgive. Sending poisoned champagne to Jack was a desperate and dangerous move, but fate had other plans when Carly became the unintended victim. I remember thinking that incident changed everything because suddenly the consequences spread far beyond the two men who hated each other. Carly survived thanks to the antidote, but the damage to everyone's trust was already done. Then came another twist that made me question Jack even more. When Carly discovered what she believed Jack had done by pulling Jocelyn into the WSB, it felt like another reminder that Jack's decisions always leave someone else paying the price. Maybe he convinces himself he's serving a greater mission, but I've lived long enough to know that's the excuse a lot of dangerous people give themselves. Sometimes the line between duty and manipulation becomes so blurred that even the person crossing it can't tell the difference anymore. The more I sit and think about everything that's happened, the more convinced I become that Ross Cullum's death doesn't automatically mean Jack Brennan has escaped the consequences of his past. If anything, I think his real problems may just be beginning. I've watched enough years of General Hospital to recognize when the writers are quietly laying the groundwork for something much bigger. They don't usually remove one major player unless another secret is waiting to take center stage. That's exactly why this possible deal between Valentin and Z keeps nagging at me. It feels too important to ignore. I've always believed Valentin is one of the smartest men in Port Charles. He doesn't make moves based on emotion alone, even when he's angry. Yes, he's made mistakes over the years, but when his back is against the wall, he usually has 3 different plans already prepared. That's why I find it almost impossible to believe he would disappear without making sure someone else was holding the truth about Jack Brennan. If Z really knows what Valentin shared with him, then Jack could be standing on much thinner ice than he realizes. One thing I've learned after following this show for so many years is that secrets are like old debts. Sooner or later, somebody comes to collect. Jack has spent a long time convincing everyone that he's one of the good guys. He carries himself with confidence, speaks with authority, and always seems ready with an explanation. I'll admit there were times when I almost believed he was simply making difficult choices for the sake of national security. But then I'd remember everything that happened with Valentin, and those doubts would come rushing right back. I still can't forget the way Valentin ended up taking the fall while Jack remained comfortably behind the scenes. That situation never felt fair to me. Valentin carried the burden while Jack kept moving forward with his career, eventually becoming the head of the new WSB field office in Port Charles. Every time I watched those scenes, I found myself asking the same question. How does someone with so many questionable decisions in his past keep climbing higher? Maybe there are answers we still haven't been given, or maybe someone has been protecting Jack all along. Either possibility is enough to make me suspicious. Then I think about everything Valentin sacrificed while living on the run with Charlotte. No father chooses that kind of life unless he truly believes there's no safer option. He stayed hidden for months, constantly looking over his shoulder, trying to protect the person he loved most. Watching that reminded me that underneath all the schemes and power plays, Valentin has always had one weakness: his daughter. Once Charlotte became caught in the middle of this war, I honestly believed there was no going back. The Prague restaurant shooting still gives me that uneasy feeling whenever I remember it. What should have been a chance for a family to reconnect turned into another nightmare. Colette Moreau opening fire wasn't just another action scene to me. It changed the emotional weight of this entire conflict. Charlotte almost became an innocent casualty, and once that happened, I don't think Valentin needed much convincing that Jack had crossed a line. Whether Jack actually gave the order or not almost became irrelevant. Sometimes perception is just as powerful as reality, especially when fear and anger take over. That's why Valentin's attempt to strike back never surprised me. Sending poisoned champagne was reckless, no doubt about it, but revenge often clouds good judgment. What shocked me wasn't the plan itself. It was the cruel twist of fate that put Carly's life on the line instead. I remember thinking how quickly these secret battles between powerful people end up hurting those who had nothing to do with the original conflict. Carly paid the price for someone else's war. And moments like that always remind me that no one in Port Charles stays untouched forever. Even after Carly survived, the damage didn't disappear. Trust had already been shattered. Every relationship connected to Jack became more complicated, and then the situation with Jocelyn only made things worse. I could completely understand why Carly felt betrayed after believing Jack manipulated Jocelyn into joining the WSB. Whether Jack thought he was offering her an opportunity or simply using her for his own agenda, the result was the same. Another family was forced to question his true intentions. That brings me right back to Valentin's possible agreement with Z. The more I think about it, the less I believe it was just a casual conversation. Valentin has survived too many dangerous situations to leave loose ends behind. If he believes something might happen to him, I can easily picture him placing evidence, documents, names, or hidden information into Z's hands as a final safeguard. Not because he expected immediate revenge, but because he understood that timing can be more powerful than force. Sometimes the truth hurts far more when it's revealed at exactly the right moment. Personally, I think that's what makes this storyline so exciting. It's no longer just about who survives or who wins the next confrontation. It's about whether the truth can stay buried forever. And if there's one thing I've learned after all these years watching General Hospital, it's this. The truth may take the long road in Port Charles, but sooner or later, it always finds its way home. When that day finally comes, I wouldn't want to be standing where Jack Brennan is standing now.